You convince yourself you're finally out of reach. You believe the walls you've spent a lifetime building are high enough, that the distance you've put between yourself and the past is great enough. It was an absolutely perfect Sunday morning in Denver. The Colorado sun was pouring into my kitchen, and I was brewing my first pot of coffee. I picked up my phone to glance at my bank notifications, a routine weekend habit. I was expecting to see a charge from dinner the night before, maybe the automatic payment for my utilities. Instead, I saw a zero. My corporate account, the one that held the entire life of my company, was barren. $87,000. Vanished. This wasn't just my cushion. This was payroll for my developers. This was the hosting costs for our servers. This was the capital my investors had placed in my hands, a tangible symbol of their trust. My heart didn't just sink, it disintegrated. My hands were trembling so violently, I could barely navigate the screen. I didn't call the bank first. I called my parents. I drove to their house in a haze of cold, silent dread. I discovered my father, Richard, seated at their polished kitchen table, nonchalantly flipping through the business section of the newspaper. I held the phone out to him, my screen glowing with the horrifying balance. My voice came out as a quiet, brittle thing. "Dad, the money's gone. All of it, from my company account." He folded his newspaper with a sigh and looked up at me. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't apologetic. He looked irritated. "It was just sitting there, Chloe," he scoffed, as if he were talking about a plate of old leftovers. "We had a use for it. We had a use for it." In that precise moment, the ground beneath me gave way. I finally saw it all with sickening clarity. My future hadn't been erased by a faceless hacker or a system glitch. It had been plundered by the very people who were supposed to have built my foundation. Before I get into the whole story, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and let me know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. It always amazes me to see how far these stories travel. My father's words in that kitchen, "We had a use for it," weren't an explanation. They were a confession to a crime that had its roots stretching back decades. This wasn't a new betrayal, it was just the largest one. When I was 10 years old, I was a quiet child, too quiet for my family's tastes. Our house was a symphony of noise, dominated by my father's booming pronouncements about his next big venture and my mother's frenetic energy as she tried to maintain the perfect facade. My brother Leo was always center stage. He was gregarious and charming like our dad, and he always had some new passion or some new problem that required everyone's immediate focus. I was just Chloe, the girl who read in the corner, the one who completed her homework without a single reminder. I was effectively invisible, and frankly, most of the time, I was thankful for it. The only person who truly seemed to see me was my grandfather, my mother's dad. He was a retired botanist, a man who loved the quiet logic of the natural world. He understood my silence. He never tried to make me louder. For my 10th birthday, he gave me a present. It wasn't a doll or a game. It was a magnificent, oversized botanical encyclopedia from the 1920s. It was bound in deep green leather, with the title embossed in gold leaf. The pages were thick, creamy paper, filled with hand-colored plates of flowers and trees, and they smelled of history and vanilla. It was, without a doubt, the most exquisite thing I had ever held. It was a portal to a world far away from our loud, chaotic home. It was a map to somewhere peaceful. I kept it on my desk. I touched it every single day. I would trace the delicate lines of an orchid or the intricate veins on a fern leaf. It was mine. In a household where everything was communal, borrowed, or eventually broken, this one thing was sacredly mine. A week later, it was gone. I didn't feel panic at first, just a sense of misplacement. I searched. Under my bed, in my closet, behind my dresser. I asked my mom, Barbara, who was rushing around getting ready for one of my father's important client dinners. "A book? Chloe, I don't have time for this right now," she said, her voice already strained with stress. "You're always misplacing things. It'll show up." But I knew I hadn't misplaced it. That book was my anchor. I asked Leo. He just gave me a vacant shrug. "I don't care about your nerdy flower book," he muttered, his eyes glued to a video game. My stomach began to feel hollow and sick. I waited for my dad, Richard, to get home. He walked in late, smelling of expensive cologne and steakhouse air. He was in a chipper mood, which was almost always a bad omen. "Dad, have you seen my big green book? The one Grandpa gave me?" He paused dramatically in the hallway, looking up at the ceiling as if deep in thought. Then he beamed. A huge, brilliant smile that never quite reached his eyes. "Oh, that old thing. Chloe, you are not going to believe the story behind this." He draped his arm around my shoulder, and I instinctively tensed up. He was putting on a performance. I was speaking with a new contact of mine, a very influential man, a real connoisseur of rare books. He saw it on your desk and was absolutely captivated. He just wanted to borrow it for a little while. I just stared at him, my mind unable to process the words. "A connoisseur? Why?" "Building relationships, Chloe. It's all about building relationships," he said, patting my head condescendingly. "He wants to show it to some people. This is a very big deal. You really did me a huge favor." He framed it as if I had been a willing participant, a partner in his business dealings. He made it sound like my book was out in the world, doing important work. I felt a confusing mix of emotions. I wanted to be a good daughter. I wanted to be helpful. But I also felt a deep, spreading coldness. "When do I get it back?" I asked. "Soon, very soon. Don't you worry your little head about it." He turned and walked away, whistling a cheerful tune. I waited for a week, no book. I waited for 2 weeks, still no book. I stopped asking my parents about it. I knew, deep down, that pressing the issue would only lead to a fight. My mother would chide me for upsetting my father. My father would just get loud and angry. A few days later, I was scrounging in his winter coat pocket for a couple of dollars to buy lunch at school. My mom had claimed her purse was empty. I felt the usual crumpled receipts and gum wrappers, and then a small, stiff square of paper. It was a pale yellow pawn ticket. I unfolded it. The shop's name was Quick Cash, a place on the far side of town I'd only seen from the highway. The description on the ticket read, "Won by Ully Green Book, Flowers, Antique." The date stamped on the ticket was from 2 days after my father's supposed meeting with his contact. The amount was $75. I stood there in the quiet hallway, holding that flimsy yellow ticket. The ringing in my ears was louder than my father's empty promises. He hadn't built a relationship. He hadn't loaned it out. He had sold it. He had taken the one thing in the world that was truly mine, the one thing I cherished, and sold it for the price of a fancy dinner. I didn't cry. I felt something far worse. I felt a moment of absolute, horrifying clarity. I finally understood the rules of the game. I walked into the kitchen and handed the ticket to my mother. She was at the sink, her back to me. She took it, read it, and her shoulders visibly slumped. She didn't turn around. She just stood there for a full minute, her hands submerged in the soapy water. Then she turned, and her face was a mask of stone. She tore the ticket into tiny, furious pieces and let them flutter into the trash can. "You will not breathe a word of this," she whispered, her voice dangerously sharp. You will not upset your father. He is under so much pressure. We need him to stay focused. It is just a book, Chloe. He will get it back when his deal closes. But he never got it back. The deal, like all his deals, never closed. That was my first true lesson in the Evans family dynamic. My mother wasn't a protector. She was an enabler. She was the one who scrubbed away the evidence and demanded silence. My brother was the project, the one who deserved all the resources. My father was the dreamer, the one who took whatever he wanted. And I was the builder. I was the one who was expected to silently absorb the cost of it all. On that day, my childhood ended. I started building a wall. That little yellow pawn ticket was the blueprint for the rest of my life. It taught me that to keep anything safe, I had to keep it far, far away from my family. The $87,000 in that corporate account wasn't just money. It was the wall I had spent nearly 20 years building, brick by painful brick. I left for college at 18. I didn't just leave, I escaped. I managed to get a partial scholarship to the University of Colorado Boulder for their computer science program. I packed a single suitcase and a duffel bag. My father hugged me goodbye, telling me to make some good contacts for the family business. My mother wept, not because her daughter was leaving, but because she was worried about what the neighbors would say. It just doesn't look right, Chloe, leaving with so little. She sniffled. I had $600 in cash, saved from 2 years of working at a local coffee shop. I tucked it into the sole of my shoe. I already knew better than to leave it in a wallet. College was my first taste of real oxygen. For the first time in my life, I wasn't Richard's daughter or Leo's sister. I was just Chloe Evans, a student ID number. It was paradise. I threw myself into my work, data science. It was the perfect refuge. It was the antithesis of my father. Data doesn't lie. Data doesn't make excuses or grandiose promises. It doesn't have a big deal that's perpetually just about to close. It's logical. It's transparent. It's honest. You run the algorithms, you get a result. Cause and effect. There was no family drama hidden in a line of Python script. I built my wall with hard work. I didn't have one job. I had 3. I was a TA for a freshman programming course. I worked in the university library reshelving books, and I took on freelance web development projects late at night. I was a full-time student. I was perpetually exhausted. I survived on cheap coffee and leftover slices of pizza. I didn't go to football games. I didn't make a lot of friends. But the exhaustion felt pure. It was a clean kind of tired, a tired I had earned myself. It was infinitely better than the sick, anxious exhaustion I felt back home. Every paycheck felt like a small victory. The first time I paid the rent for my own tiny, run-down apartment, I wept with relief. It was mine. No one could take it from me. The phone calls from home were always a predictable script. My mother. "When are you coming to visit, Chloe? Your aunt asked about you. It looks bad that you're never here. What will people think?" My father. "Chloe, just the person. Listen, I've got this incredible opportunity, a real game changer. But I need a little bridge loan, just a few thousand to show good faith to my new partners." My answer was always the same, polite, firm, and final. "I can't, Dad. I have tuition payments. I can't, Mom. I have finals. I'm sorry, I just don't have it." The guilt was a heavy blanket they were constantly trying to throw over me. But the memory of that pawn ticket was a fire that kept me warm. I finished my undergrad and went directly into a master's program. More work, more student loans, more bricks in the wall. After getting my degree, I landed a great job at a growing tech firm in Denver. I was a data scientist, and I was very good at my job. I earned promotions, I secured bonuses, and every single spare dollar went into one place. A high-yield savings account opened with a different bank, an account my parents knew nothing about. This was the seed money for Orion Dynamics. Orion. I named it after the constellation, a small private tribute to the sky I used to wish I could escape to. Orion Dynamics wasn't just a startup, it was my fortress. It was the thing I would build, the thing I would own, the thing I would control. It was my definitive proof that I had gotten away. It took me 3 years of relentless saving, 3 years of working 80-hour weeks, juggling my day job and my freelance work, building the foundations of Orion. The $87,000 wasn't my personal fund money. It was our seed round. It was the first major check from Crestline Ventures, the investors who believed in my vision. They had believed in me. They had entrusted me with their capital. That money had a specific, tangible purpose. It was payroll for my 2 junior engineers, Sarah and Ben. It was the lease on our modest 2-room office space. It was the contract for the new server cluster we desperately needed to run our predictive models. It was the lifeblood of my company. It was not, as my father had so callously put it, just sitting there. Before that disastrous weekend, I finally believed I was safe. I had my own apartment in a part of Denver they never visited. I had my own company. I was a founder. I was successful. The physical distance and the financial walls I had so painstakingly constructed were, I thought, finally high enough. They couldn't touch me anymore. Then the invitation arrived. My mother's 60th birthday party. "Chloe, you have to be here," she'd wailed over the phone. "It would absolutely break my heart if you weren't. All of our friends, all of our family. It's a huge celebration. Please, for me." I hesitated. I hadn't been home in over a year. Maybe it was safe now. Maybe they had finally changed. Maybe my success had at long last earned me their respect. It was a fatal miscalculation. I mistook their newfound interest in my life for respect. I was profoundly wrong. They didn't see a successful daughter. They saw a new, untapped resource. The familiar dread began to creep in as soon as I got the invitation. But the guilt they wielded was worse. It was my mother's 60th, a major milestone. If I didn't go, I would be cast as the villain, the cold, ungrateful daughter who was now too good for her own family. My mother was a master at painting that particular portrait. So I made the 2-hour drive from Denver to my parents' home in the suburbs. The first thing I saw was the house. It was the same over-leveraged suburban palace they couldn't truly afford. A brand new luxury SUV was parked in the driveway, another one of my father's perks from a deal that was perpetually on the verge of closing. The lawn was impeccably manicured. The image was flawless. I walked inside, and the performance began instantly. "Chloe, you're here." My mother rushed toward me, enveloping me in a tight hug. Her smile was a little too bright, her perfume a little too strong. "Doesn't she look wonderful? Everyone, Chloe's here." My father, Richard, was holding court across the room, charming a circle of their friends. He turned, a glass of expensive scotch in his hand, and his face lit up. "There she is, my little tech mogul, the founder." He pulled me into a hug, kissing my temple loudly. "This is my daughter, Chloe. Built her own company right from the ground up. Got her brains from me, of course." The room chuckled obediently. I managed a smile. It felt like a plastic mask. I felt like a prop they were showing off. They weren't proud of me. They were proud of the story of me. They were bragging about my success as if they had funded it, as if they had nurtured it. They were taking credit for the very thing I had built specifically to escape them. I found my brother, Leo. He was hovering by the food table, looking uncomfortable in a shirt that was clearly too tight. He was still the aspiring artist, still living at home, still conveniently shielded from the financial pressures my father was supposedly under. He gave me a genuine hug. "Hey, Chloe. You look tired," he murmured. He was the only one. He didn't see the tech mogul, he just saw his sister. "You okay?" he asked. "Just overwhelmed," I said. "It's a lot." "Yeah. Well, try to eat something before Dad makes his big dramatic speech." The dinner was deafening. The toasts were painfully insincere. My father stood and raised his glass. "To my beautiful wife, Barbara, and to my wonderful family. We are so blessed and so proud of our children, our son, the artist, and our daughter, the CEO." My stomach churned. I just wanted the night to end. After the cake, as people were starting to leave, my father found me. He didn't approach me with his usual, "Listen, I need a favor." This time, he looked genuinely flustered. He looked worried. It was a new approach. "Chloe, thank God. You're a lifesaver. I have a major crisis." "What is it, Dad?" I said, automatically bracing myself. "It's your mom's slideshow. The big surprise. It's frozen. It crashed." He ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair, a perfect picture of theatrical panic. "It has all her baby pictures, pictures of her parents. Chloe, she will be absolutely heartbroken if she can't see it." I don't know what to do. It was the perfect trap. It was sentimental. It was for my mother. It was a technical problem that only I, the tech mogul, could possibly solve. If I said no, I would be the heartless monster who ruined my mother's 60th birthday party over some old family photos. "Okay," I sighed. "Where is it?" "In the study." "Thank you, Chloe. You're the best." He led me to the dark, wood-paneled study. The laptop was open on his cluttered desk. The screen showed a frozen progress bar. "See?" he said, wringing his hands. "It just gets stuck. I've tried everything." I sat down. This was my world. This was just a problem to be solved. I shifted into work mode. "Okay, let me take a look." I opened the task manager. I started running diagnostics. The computer was incredibly slow, lagging with every click. "What did you do?" I asked. "Nothing. I was trying to download a file from my email, a special song for the slideshow, and then the whole thing just locked up." He was hovering directly over my shoulder, which I despised. "Dad, I need some space to work." Right, sorry." I worked for a few minutes. I couldn't find a virus, but the machine was sticky, frustratingly slow. "I think you might be right," I said. "The file might be corrupted." "Where's the original?" "Well, that's the thing," he said, his voice rising in manufactured panic. "My email is locked. Some new security thing. It's a complete mess. Listen, your mom's cloud account is logged in, but I think the file I need is in my email, and I'm also logged into your Amazon account on here. I was trying to order her a last-minute gift. It's all just tangled up." It sounded exactly like my father, technically incompetent, chaotic, and logged into 3 different services at once. It was convoluted, but it was disturbingly plausible. "Chloe, can you just log into your own admin account just for a second? Maybe you can download the file directly. I sent a copy to your work email just in case." I let out a frustrated sigh. Fine. This was the moment. This was the click of the lock being sprung. I opened a new browser tab. I logged into my company's admin panel. I logged into my primary work email. I typed in my passwords, and then came the masterstroke. "Oh, shoot," he said, slapping his forehead. "My phone's dead. The bank app needs a 2-factor code to sync something. Can you just use your phone? We're on the same Wi-Fi. Just log into your bank app real quick. It'll sync up." It sounded utterly ridiculous, but I was tired. I was annoyed, and I just wanted the entire charade to be over. I pulled out my phone. I opened my banking app. I typed in my PIN. The app opened. "Great, it worked," he said, looking intently at the laptop. I didn't see the tiny thumbnail-sized USB stick plugged into the back of the laptop, perfectly hidden by the printer cable. I didn't register that the keyboard lag wasn't from a corrupted file. It was from a keylogger, dutifully recording every single keystroke. I didn't realize that by opening my bank app on my phone while connected to his compromised Wi-Fi network, I had just given his malicious software a digital handshake, a way to mirror my two-factor authentication tokens. I fixed the slideshow. It was a pointless background process my father had initiated to intentionally corrupt the file. I stopped the process and the slideshow loaded perfectly. "Chloe, you're a miracle worker," he boomed. My mother came into the study. "What's going on? Chloe fixed your slideshow." She clasped her hands together. "Oh, my baby, thank you. You saved the night." I left the party feeling utterly drained and empty, but also faintly relieved. I had performed my familial duty. I had helped. I had played my designated part. I drove back to Denver completely oblivious. I had logged out of everything on his computer, but it didn't matter. He had my email password. He had my company admin password. He had my bank login. And he had the digital keys to my two-factor authentication. The trap was set. I had just handed my father the master keys to my entire fortress. I woke up on Sunday, feeling safe. The party was over. I had done my duty. I was back in my own apartment, my own life. The sun was streaming into my Denver kitchen. I was making coffee, thinking about the upcoming work week. I was thinking about running payroll. I picked up my phone. It wasn't a single buzz. It was a continuous stream. Psst, psst, psst. A flood of email notifications from my bank. My stomach turned to ice. I put the coffee mug down. Alert! A transfer of $10,000 has been initiated from your business checking. Alert! A transfer of $10,000 has been initiated from your business checking. Alert! A transfer of $15,000 has been initiated from your business checking. No, no, no. This had to be a mistake, a system error. I fumbled with my phone, my fingers slick with a cold sweat. I opened my banking app. I stared at the screen, unable to breathe. The transaction history was a waking nightmare. 2:14 a.m., wire transfer $10,000. 2:17 a.m., wire transfer $10,000. 2:30 a.m., wire transfer $10,000, $15,000. 2:45 a.m., wire transfer $15,000. 3:02 a.m., wire transfer $10,000. 3:19 a.m., wire transfer $10,000. 3:35 a.m., wire transfer $10,000. 4:01 a.m., wire transfer $12,000. 8 transfers all in the dead of night, all while I was fast asleep. I scrolled to the top, to the bold number beside current balance, $145.30. It was nearly $88,000 yesterday. $87,000 of it was seed money. Now it was just gone. I felt dizzy. I had to grab the counter to steady myself. My mind was racing, but my body felt frozen. Payroll. Payroll is on Thursday. Sarah and Ben, Crestline Ventures. I have to call my investors. No, I have to call the bank. I have to stop this. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely dial the bank's fraud department. I listened to the automated menu, every second an eternity. To report suspicious activity, press 4. Fraud, I yelled into the phone. Fraud, suspicious activity. Finally, a human voice. This is the fraud department. How can I help you? My account, my business account, it's empty. Someone took all my money, all of it. You have to stop it. You have to reverse the charges, please. The representative's voice was calm, too calm. Okay, ma'am, I'm going to need you to take a deep breath. Can you please confirm your name and account number? I gave him the information. I heard the soft click of his keyboard. Yes, Ms. Evans. I see the transfers here. 8 of them, starting at 2:14 a.m. Yes, that's them. It wasn't me. I was asleep. You have to stop them. Where did the money go? There was a long pause. The typing continued. Well, Ms. Evans, here's the problem. From our end, these transfers appear to be valid. What? What do you mean valid? I'm telling you it was fraud. Ma'am, all 8 transfers were authorized using your primary login credentials, and each one was subsequently confirmed using the two-factor authentication app registered to your device. All security protocols were followed correctly. The blood drained from my face. That's impossible. The IP address that initiated the transfers, he continued, is one located in, let's see. He read the name of my parents' affluent suburban town. My throat closed up. The party, I whispered. The laptop. I'm sorry, ma'am. The laptop. My father's laptop. I logged in. Ms. Evans, did you enter your credentials on an unsecured computer? I couldn't form an answer. I felt sick to my stomach. The representative kept talking, his voice a procedural monotone. The funds have already cleared, ma'am. They were wire transfers, so they are very difficult to reverse. The first 7 transfers went to a series of newly opened accounts, but the final one, the one for $12,000, that went to a different external account. Who? I whispered. Whose account was it? One moment. The account is registered to a Mr. Richard Evans. The phone felt like it weighed 100 pounds. The world stopped. My kitchen dissolved into a blur. All I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears and the calm, detached voice of the bank representative. Ma'am, are you still there? We highly recommend you file a police report immediately. This is a criminal matter. I hung up. I stood in my kitchen, bathed in the bright Sunday sunlight. It wasn't a hacker in some far-off country. It wasn't a random data breach. It was my father. He used my mother's 60th birthday. He faked a slideshow crisis. He used my own skill, the one thing I had built to protect myself, the one thing I was proud of, as the weapon to rob me blind. He didn't just stumble upon my passwords. He orchestrated the entire thing. The keylogger, the Wi-Fi exploit, the mirrored authentication app. This wasn't a desperate, clumsy grab for cash. This was a plan. He had performed his bumbling, technically inept father routine, and I had fallen for it completely. The 10-year-old girl who lost her botanical encyclopedia wanted to curl up on the kitchen floor and sob. She wanted to call her mom to come and fix it. But I wasn't that girl anymore. The panic evaporated, replaced by something cold, heavy, and clear as ice. This wasn't family drama. This wasn't a loan. This was felony wire fraud. I looked at my phone. My first instinct was to call him, to scream, to demand why. But then I remembered the pawn ticket. I remembered my mother's face as she tore it to pieces. Don't you dare upset your father. I knew exactly what would happen. He would deny it. He would gaslight me. He would call me ungrateful and hysterical. My mother would cry and tell me I was tearing the family apart over money. I didn't call them. I didn't text. I didn't scream. I took one long, deep breath. I picked up my phone, and I made a very different kind of call. I didn't call my father. I didn't call my mother. I just hung up the phone as the bank representative continued to speak. The bright, sunny kitchen felt like a cold, empty stage. The coffee I had been brewing was now just a bitter smell hanging in the air. I didn't scream. I wanted to, but the sound was trapped in my throat, frozen by the shock. I didn't cry because crying is for when you're sad or hurt or confused. I wasn't any of those things. I was just cold. It was a strange, terrible, clarifying moment. It was the definitive answer to a question I had been asking myself my entire life. The question was, Do I matter to them? Now I knew. No. To them, I was not a daughter. I was not a person. I was a resource. I was an oil well they had just finished tapping. I was the botanical encyclopedia, all grown up, with a much higher street value. You can't reason with people who see you as an object. You can't appeal to their better nature. You can't make them understand. My father's words from that morning echoed in my head. We had a use for it. Not, "I'm so sorry." Not, "It was a terrible mistake." Just a simple statement of acquisition. My first thought, clear as a bell, was, he's spending it, right now. While I was on the phone with the bank, he was probably moving it again, laundering it from one account to another. He was a gambler, and I had just handed him the biggest poker chip of his life. The ice in my veins began to move, telling me what to do. I didn't pack a bag. I grabbed my laptop bag, my personal and work machines, my keys, my wallet. I walked to my car, got in, and locked the doors. I sat in the parking lot of my own apartment building, my body finally starting to shake. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard it was painful. I just drove. I didn't have a destination. I just needed to be in motion. I got on I-25 and headed south. The normal Sunday traffic flowed around me. People going to brunch, people going to parks, people living their ordinary lives. I wanted to lay on the horn and scream, "Don't you see? The world is ending." But it wasn't. It was just my world. I saw a sign for a 24-hour diner and pulled off the highway. I walked in, the smell of stale coffee and frying bacon hitting me like a wall. A waitress with a tired expression pointed me toward a booth. I slid in. The red vinyl was cracked and peeling. I sat there for 10 minutes, just staring at the laminated menu. I couldn't read the words. Pancakes, omelets, burgers. It all seemed like a language from another planet. The waitress came over. "What'll it be, hon?" "Coffee," I whispered. "Just coffee, black." She poured it from a glass pot. It was hot and thin. I held the warm, heavy mug in my hands. It was the first solid thing I had felt in an hour. I needed an adult. I was 33 years old, a data scientist, a company founder, and I needed an adult. But I couldn't call my mother. My mother was his accomplice. She was the one who tore up the pawn ticket. She was the one who would tell me I was the one ruining everything. I thought of my phone. I couldn't call my friends. What could I possibly say? "Hey, so my dad just stole $87,000 from my business?" It sounded insane. It sounded like something from a bad movie. Then I thought of my aunt, Carol Foster, my father's sister. This was a terrible risk. She was his blood. But she was different. She was a forensic accountant. She was methodical, quiet, and brutally honest. She had never liked my mother. She and my father had always been tense around each other. He was all charm and bluster. She was all spreadsheets and verifiable facts. She had come to my college graduation. She'd sent me a check for $250. "For your hard work, Chloe," the card had said. "Don't lend it to anyone." My hands were still shaking as I found her name in my contacts. I pressed the call button. It rang once, twice. Carol Foster speaking. Her voice was crisp and professional. "Aunt Carol?" My voice broke. It sounded small and lost. There was a pause. "Chloe, what's wrong? You sound awful." Something bad happened," I stammered. "Aunt Carol, I think my dad just stole all of my company's money." I waited for her to laugh. I waited for her to say, "Don't be ridiculous, Chloe. It must be a misunderstanding." She didn't. There was a very long, very heavy silence on the line. I heard her take a single sharp breath. "Chloe," she said, and her voice had suddenly turned to steel. "Where are you right now?" "I'm at a diner." Off I-25. Good. Stay right there. Are you on a public Wi-Fi? No, just my phone's data. Listen to me very carefully. Do not call your mother. Do not call your father. Do not text them. Do not log into any of your bank accounts from your phone. Do you understand me? Yes, I whispered, tears finally blurring my vision. It was the overwhelming relief of being believed. This is not family drama, Chloe, she said. This is not a misunderstanding. This is a crime. This is wire fraud. Her words were an echo of my own thoughts, but hearing them from her made it real. What? What do I do? You're going to sit tight. You're going to drink your coffee. And you are not going to move. I have a colleague, a lawyer. Her name is Jessica Riley. She's the best cybercrime attorney in Denver. I'm calling her right now. We will be there in 1 hour. Aunt Carol, it's $87,000. It's all of it. It's payroll. I know, honey, she said. Her voice was cold, but it was the coldness of a surgeon, not the coldness of my father. We're going to handle it. Did he get into your personal accounts too? I don't know. I'm afraid to look. Don't look at anything. We're on our way. 1 hour. She hung up. I sat in the booth, the terrible coffee a strange comfort. I looked out the window. The cars were still streaming past on the highway. I was in the middle of a war, but the rest of the world was oblivious. My aunt hadn't been surprised. She hadn't been shocked. And that's when I knew. This wasn't the first time. I wasn't the first victim. I was just the biggest. I was sitting in a cheap diner, my entire future engulfed in flames. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't alone. I had an ally, and she was bringing a lawyer. An hour later, a dark blue sedan I didn't recognize pulled into the diner's dusty parking lot. Aunt Carol got out of the passenger side. She was wearing tailored slacks and a sharp blazer. She looked like she was on her way to a board meeting, not a family catastrophe. The woman who got out of the driver's side was younger, maybe early 40s. She wore a dark suit and carried a sleek leather briefcase. She looked sharp, focused, and expensive. They slid into the booth opposite me. Carol placed her hand on top of mine. Her skin was cool and steady. "This is Jessica Riley," she said. "Jessica, this is my niece, Chloe Evans." Jessica nodded curtly. She didn't offer a handshake. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a slim laptop. "Ms. Evans." "Chloe, I need you to tell me exactly what happened. Do not leave out a single detail. Start with the party." I looked at Carol. She knows? I gave her the executive summary, Carol said, her lips a thin, hard line, Richard being Richard. So I told them everything. The faked panic about the slideshow, the corrupted file, the way he'd hovered over my shoulder, the multiple logins to my email, my company's admin panel, my bank app. I felt so foolish. I'm a data scientist. I should have known. I should have seen it, I whispered, staring into my now empty coffee cup. I can't believe I fell for it. Jessica stopped typing. She looked at me, her eyes clear and direct. "You didn't fall for anything, Chloe. You were socially engineered by a perpetrator you have been conditioned your entire life to trust. This wasn't a clumsy grab for cash. This was meticulously planned. He's been setting this up." She turned the laptop around to face me. "I need your permission to access your accounts. We need to see the digital breadcrumbs." I gave her my passwords, feeling a fresh wave of shame. She began to type, her fingers flying across the keyboard with a speed that I, as a programmer, could deeply respect. "Okay," she said after a few minutes. "He's good. Or he's had help. The laptop at your parents' house was running a keylogger, and when you logged into your bank app on your phone, you were on his Wi-Fi. He spoofed the network and mirrored your two-factor authentication. He grabbed your security token." She pointed to a line of code on the screen. "He didn't just log in. He created a new authorized user on your account using your credentials. That's how he was able to make the transfers so cleanly. He had help? I asked. He's been reading, Jessica said. Or, more likely, he's been in trouble like this before. Okay, I'm in. Bank logs, transfer records, IP addresses. Yep. All from his home IP address. That's arrogant. Or stupid. With my dad, it's probably both, I muttered. Aunt Carol, who had been silent, finally spoke. He's arrogant. He thinks he's the smartest man in any room. He thinks family loyalty is a shield that protects him from consequences. Not this time, Jessica said under her breath. Okay, I'm tracking the transfers. She followed the digital trail. I watched as my life's work was reduced to a flowchart on her screen. The $87,000, Jessica said, was split. The first $75,000 was wired to a high-yield investment account. She typed some more. An account solely in his name. Richard Evans. Okay, that's easy enough to freeze. But the last $12,000, no, wait. $12,000 from your account, and it looks like he moved money from other sources too. He made a single, large transfer. She trailed off, her brow furrowed. Oh, she said softly, he's not just a thief, he's a compulsive gambler. What do you mean? I asked. He moved your money, plus, it looks like at least $20,000 from another source, into a high-risk margin trading account. Forex crypto futures. It's a digital casino, Chloe. He's not investing, he's gambling. And he's been doing it for a while. Aunt Carol closed her eyes. For the first time, she looked profoundly tired. So it's true, she whispered. I've suspected for years. What do we do? I asked, my voice small again. Jessica snapped her laptop shut. We do 3 things, immediately. First, I'm calling the head of security at the bank. I know him personally. I'm going to have every single account associated with the names Richard Evans and Barbara Evans frozen. Right now. That margin account, we'll lock it. Whatever's left in there, he won't be able to touch. He might have already lost a significant portion of it, Chloe. I need you to be prepared for that. I nodded, feeling numb. Second, Jessica continued, we are driving to the nearest police precinct. We are filing a police report for felony wire fraud. This is the most important step. Without a police report, you are just a daughter having a spat with her father. With one, you are the victim of a federal crime. It gives us all the leverage. The police? I said, my stomach twisting into a knot. On my own father? Yes, Carol said, her voice firm. On your own father. Third, Jessica said, pulling out her phone. You have to call your investors. You have to call Crestline Ventures. This somehow felt like the worst part. This was my professional death sentence. What do I say? How do I tell them I let someone steal all their money? You're going to be honest, Jessica said, her voice surprisingly gentle. You're going to tell them that your company was the victim of a targeted wire fraud attack. You're going to state that a police report has been filed, an attorney has been retained, and all associated accounts have been frozen. You will tell them you are in active and aggressive pursuit of the funds. You will be professional. You will not cry. You will state the facts. And Sarah and Ben, my employees, payroll is on Thursday. I looked at Aunt Carol. I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. She opened her handbag and pulled out a checkbook. How much is payroll? It's about $4,500 for the week. She wrote a check and slid it across the sticky table. It was made out to Orion Dynamics. This is a loan, she said. From me, you will make payroll. Your company will not go under. Not because of this, not because of him. I looked at the check. Then I looked at Jessica. Then at my aunt. Okay, I said. My voice was steady now. Let's go to the police station. Filing the report was the most surreal hour of my life. I sat across from a detective who looked bored and overworked. "So," he said, barely looking up from his computer, "you're saying your dad took your money?" "My father," I said, my voice cold and precise, "committed felony wire fraud. He used a keylogger and a two-factor authentication spoof to illegally transfer $87,000 from my corporate account into his own." Jessica slid a prepared folder across the desk. "Here are the bank logs, the wire transfer reports, and the IP address data." "It's all there, Detective. This is a Class 3 felony. We expect a warrant to be issued for all electronic devices at the suspect's residence immediately." The detective's attitude shifted. He picked up the folder. He looked at Jessica's business card on top. He looked at me. "Yes, ma'am," he said, suddenly sitting up straighter. We walked out of the police station into the hot afternoon sun. "What's left of the money is frozen," Jessica said. The margin account had about $11,000 left in it. He'd already lost the rest. I stopped walking. "So, of my $87,000, he's already lost." "He's lost almost all of it, Chloe," Jessica said gently. "He stole your money and he's already burned through it." A new kind of anger, sharp and hot, cut through the ice. It wasn't even for a real need. It wasn't to save their house from foreclosure. It was for a game. He had set my entire life's work on fire just to feel the thrill of watching it burn. "The house," Carol said almost to herself. "The house is the only real asset left." "Okay," I said, "what's next?" Jessica looked at me. "Next? We go get the computers. The warrant will be ready. A deputy will meet us there." "We're going to the house?" I asked, my blood running cold. "Yes," Jessica said, "and so are you, and so is Carol. He needs to see this isn't a lawsuit he can charm his way out of. This is a reckoning." The drive to my parents' house was the longest of my life. This time I wasn't alone. I was in Jessica's car. Aunt Carol sat in the back, silent, staring out the window at the passing scenery. A sheriff's department cruiser followed us. It felt like I was in a movie, but the fear was intensely real. My stomach was a hard knot of acid. I was about to confront my father, and I was bringing the law with me. "Are you ready for this?" Jessica asked me quietly as we pulled onto their street. The street looked so painfully normal. Perfect lawns, kids' bikes propped against mailboxes. "No," I said honestly, "but I'm going to do it anyway." "Good," Jessica said. "Let me do the talking. You and Carol are the wall. You just stand there. You don't engage. You just exist. Let him see you." We parked. The deputy, a tall, stern-faced man, parked behind us. We all walked up the perfect flagstone pathway to the big, imposing oak door. I felt like I was 10 years old again, about to be in terrible trouble. Before Jessica could even ring the bell, the door swung open. It was my father. He was holding a glass of iced tea, and he was smiling, that big, bright, utterly empty smile. He had been expecting me. He thought I was coming back, tail between my legs, to cry and beg. "Chloe," he said, his voice booming with false warmth. "I was wondering when you'd cool off and come to your senses. What's all this?" His eyes flicked from me to Jessica, then to Carol. His smile faltered. Then he saw the deputy walk up the steps behind us. His face went chalky white. "Richard? What's going on?" My mother's voice. She appeared behind him, still in her pristine tennis whites. Her face was a mask of confusion that quickly morphed into annoyance. "Chloe, what is this?" she snapped, glaring at the deputy. "You're making a scene. What will the neighbors think?" She was still worried about the neighbors. Jessica Whitaker stepped forward. She was a foot shorter than my father, but she commanded all the space on the porch. "Mr. Richard Evans?" she said, her voice cutting through the air like glass. "This is a family matter," my father stammered, trying to regain his charming composure. "A little misunderstanding about a loan." "Chloe, you're overreacting. This is a legal demand," Jessica said, holding up a folder, "for the immediate return of $87,000, obtained through felony wire fraud and violations of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act." My mother gasped. 87,000. Richard? What is she talking about? My father laughed. It was a high, thin, reedy sound. "This is absurd. I have no idea what this woman is talking about. Chloe, tell them this is just a family misunderstanding. It was a loan for the family." I looked him dead in the eye. My voice was a stranger's. It was low, and it didn't shake. "It wasn't a loan, Dad. How dare you?" my mother shrieked, stepping in front of him like a human shield. "How dare you accuse your own father after everything we've done for you? You ungrateful child." "Barbara." Aunt Carol's voice was quiet, but it sliced right through my mother's rising hysteria. Carol stepped forward, coming to stand beside me. My father looked at his sister, and for the first time, I saw genuine, unadulterated fear in his eyes. He wasn't afraid of me. He wasn't afraid of Jessica or the law. He was terrified of Carol. "Carol, what are you doing here?" "This has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me, Richard," she said, her voice flat and cold. "You see, Chloe isn't the only one you borrowed from." My mother's head whipped around to face Carol. "What?" "I've been quiet for 10 years, Richard," Carol said, her eyes locked on his. "I've been quiet while you told me about your can't-miss real estate ventures, while you borrowed from my retirement account." "Carol, don't," my father whispered, pleading. "How much, Richard?" Carol's voice was rising. "How much did you borrow?" "Richard, what is she talking about?" My mother was clutching his arm, her knuckles white. Carol answered for him. $300,000, Barbara. That's what he's talking about. My entire retirement. Gone. The silence on the porch was absolute. The deputy just stood and watched. My mother let go of my father's arm. She staggered back a step, her face ashen. 300,000? "And the best part," Carol continued, her voice dripping with scorn, "is that as your accountant, Richard, I get to see all the statements. I've been tracing it for years. And this morning, when I got the call from Chloe, I finally found the last piece of the puzzle. That margin trading account you just funneled Chloe's money into, it's the same one you've been bleeding my $300,000 into for a decade. It's the same account you've been gambling with." "No," my mother whispered. "No, It was for the house, the bridge loan. He said the pressure." "There is no deal, Barbara." Carol's voice was like a gunshot. "There was never any deal. There's just him and his addiction. He stole from his daughter, and he stole from his sister. He stole everything." My father's smile was gone. The charm, the energy, the big personality. It all just deflated. He visibly shrank. He stumbled back, grabbing the doorframe for support. He looked old. He looked weak. He looked exactly like what he was, a common thief. My mother looked at him. Her face, which had been so full of righteous fury at me just moments before, crumpled. The betrayal was total and absolute. She wasn't his partner. She was just his oldest and most loyal victim. "Richard," she whispered. He wouldn't look at her. He just stared at the welcome mat. The deputy stepped forward into the ringing silence. "Mr. Evans, I have a warrant here to seize all computers, laptops, tablets, and external hard drives on this property. If you'll step aside, sir." My father didn't move. He just slid down the doorframe and sat on the cold stone, his head in his hands. My mother looked at me. Her eyes were blank with shock. Then the shock was replaced by a dark, terrible rage, but it wasn't directed at my father. It was for me. You, she whispered, her finger trembling as she pointed it at me. You did this. You destroyed our family. Before I could even react, Aunt Carol stepped between us. No, Barbara, he did. You just helped him hold the door open. Jessica nodded to the deputy. We'll be outside. We walked away. We left them there on the perfect porch of their perfect lying house. I could hear my mother start to sob. It wasn't a sob of sadness. It was a sob of pure rage. I didn't look back. The days that followed were a gray blur. There was no sense of victory, no triumph, just a long, slow, grinding legal process. Jessica and Carol were a perfect machine. Carol had a decade's worth of financial records, meticulously documenting Richard's slow, systematic theft from her retirement fund. Jessica had the smoking gun, the keylogger from his laptop, the forensic proof of the spoofed Wi-Fi, the digital signature of the crime. The deputy had found the small USB drive, the source of the keylogging software, hidden in a desk drawer. My father was arrested. The day in court was surreal. I didn't want to go, but Carol insisted. You have to see this through, she said. You have to see it end. My father was represented by a public defender. He sat at the defendant's table wearing a cheap, ill-fitting suit. He looked small and insignificant. My mother sat in the front row directly behind him. She didn't look at me once. She just stared straight ahead, her face a hard mask of defiance. With the combined evidence from both me and Carol, the district attorney had him cold. 2 counts of felony wire fraud, 2 counts of computer crime. He was facing years in prison. His lawyer had no defense, so they offered a plea deal. He pled guilty to everything. He stood up, and his voice was a barely audible mumble. Guilty. I thought I would feel something, relief, anger, even joy. I felt nothing. I just felt tired. He was a stranger to me. Because he pled guilty and because it was a non-violent, white-collar crime, the judge didn't give him jail time. Instead, the judge brought down a different kind of hammer. The court ordered the immediate forced sale of their house, the palace that was built on a foundation of lies. All equity from the sale was to be seized for restitution. Half of the proceeds would go to me. Half would go to Aunt Carol. My father was sentenced to 5 years of probation. He had to wear an ankle monitor. He was assigned to mandatory financial counseling and Gamblers Anonymous meetings. And the judge issued a restraining order. He was legally forbidden from contacting me or Carol in any way. No calls, no letters, no contact. For 5 years. The illusion of the Evans family didn't just disintegrate, it was legally, financially, and permanently dissolved. After the hearing, I walked out into the hallway. My mother was there, waiting for me. She walked right up to me, her eyes red-rimmed, but she wasn't crying. She was vibrating with a silent fury. "Are you happy now?" she hissed. I just looked at her. I had no words left. "You've taken everything. We're homeless. Your father has to sell his home. Because of you." "He stole from me, Mom," I said. My voice was quiet. "He stole from his own sister." "He's a criminal. He's your father," she cried. And now the tears finally came. "He was under pressure. He was trying to provide for us. You're cold, Chloe. You're just like her." She jerked her head toward Carol, who was talking with Jessica down the hall. "And you," I said softly, "are just like him. You'll believe any lie, as long as it helps you maintain the pretty picture." "I have nowhere to go," she whispered, a last desperate attempt to land a blow of guilt. "You made your choice, Mom," I said. "You made it a long time ago when you tore up that pawn ticket. I'm done paying for your choices." I turned and walked away. I left her standing alone in the hallway of the courthouse. I didn't look back. The house sold quickly at auction. It was bought by a developer who planned to tear it down. After the bank took its cut for the mortgage, the remaining equity was split. A check for $54,000 appeared in my bank account. It wasn't the $87,000. It wasn't even close. But it was something. Aunt Carol got her share, a tiny fraction of what he had stolen from her over the years. "It's not about the money, Chloe," she told me over dinner a few nights later. It was never about the money. It was about the truth finally coming out. The last piece of the old world fell away a week later. There was a knock on my apartment door. I opened it to find my brother, Leo, standing there. He was holding a backpack and a guitar case. He looked completely lost. "Hey, Chloe," he said. "Leo, what are you doing here?" "The house is gone," he said, staring at his shoes. "Mom went to stay with her sister. Dad, he's in some kind of halfway house, I think. A condition of his probation." I didn't know," I said. He finally looked up at me. His eyes were clear. The artistic haze that usually clouded them was gone. "I knew he was bad with money, Chloe," he said, his voice cracking. I didn't know about this. I didn't know about Aunt Carol. I didn't know about you." He had been the golden boy, the one shielded from all the ugliness. He was the reason my mother always said my father was under so much pressure to pay for his music lessons, his expensive gear, his life. He used me too," Leo whispered. "He told me he needed a bridge loan to fund my first album. I believed him. All this time, I thought you were the selfish one, and I was just his excuse. He looked so broken. He wasn't the golden boy anymore. He was just another victim." "I don't have anywhere to go," he said quietly. I looked at him, then at my quiet, dark apartment, my fortress. I let out a long sigh. "The couch pulls out," I said. "You can stay for a week, then you get a job." He nodded, a small, grateful nod. "A job. Yeah. Okay. Chloe, yeah? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He walked inside. The illusion was gone. The family was shattered. But for the first time in our lives, my brother and I were finally telling the truth. A year later, I stood in my new office. It wasn't a huge, fancy glass tower. It was a clean, bright space in a repurposed warehouse in East Denver. The walls were exposed brick, and the afternoon sun streamed in through the big industrial windows. This was the headquarters of Cassiopeia Solutions. I had renamed the company. Orion was about a hunter. Cassiopeia was a queen, a constellation. I was taking my stars back. Rebuilding was the hardest thing I had ever done. I had taken the $54,000 from the house sale. I had taken the $4,500 loan from Carol, and I had walked back into the offices of Crestline Ventures. I told them everything: the theft, the fraud, the police report, the house sale. I told them I had lost $87,000 of their money and had only recovered $54,000. "I understand," I told them, "if you want to pull your funding, but I'm asking you not to. I have a new CFO, and I have a new plan." My investors had looked at me. Then they looked at the woman sitting next to me. "This is my aunt, Carol Foster," I had said. "She will be my new chief financial officer." Carol had opened her own folder. She didn't talk about family or betrayal. She talked about burn rates, new multi-layered security protocols, and a revised 3-year projection that was both aggressive and realistic. She was brutal, efficient, and brilliant. My investors didn't just stay, they reinvested. They doubled their seed round. "You're not the first founder to get screwed, Ms. Evans," one of them said. "But you're the first one I've met who filed a police report on her own father, got some of the money back, and brought us a CFO who legitimately scares me. We're in." Now, a year later, we were flourishing. We were fully funded, we were hiring, we were free. My CFO, Aunt Carol, ran the tightest ship in the state of Colorado. She watched every dollar. She protected the company, our company, like a mother bear. She was the financial guardian I had needed my entire life. And my first coding intern? My brother, Leo. He hadn't stayed on my couch for just a week. He'd stayed for good. He got a job at a local cafe. He paid me rent. And in his spare time, he asked me to teach him how to code. He had stopped being the struggling musician and discovered he had a surprisingly logical mind. He was good at it. He had a natural talent for front-end development. He was quiet. He was humble. He worked hard. He brought me coffee every single morning. This was my new family. My new family was my team. It was Sarah and Ben, the developers who had stuck with me, even when I told them I wasn't sure I could make payroll that first week. It was Carol, who had her own office right next to mine. It was Leo, who was finally becoming a man on his own terms. We were a real family. We weren't built on guilt or obligation or pretty pictures for the neighbors. We were built on mutual respect. We were built on trust. We were built on work. Last week, I received a letter. It was from my father. It was the first contact I'd had in a year. It was part of his probation-mandated making amends step from his 12-step program. My hands shook as I opened it. It wasn't an apology. It was a page full of excuses. I was under so much pressure. I wanted to give your mother the life she deserved. I always knew you were the strong one, the one who could handle it. I just needed a bridge. I did it for the family. He did it for the family. I put the letter down on my new, clean, empty desk. He still doesn't get it. He still thinks family is the big house, the fancy car, the parties, the image. He thinks that's the thing I destroyed. He thinks he just needed money to prop up that lie. He doesn't understand. I didn't destroy the family. I just stopped financing the lie. I looked out the window of my office at the Denver skyline, Lyra, Cassiopeia, my constellations. Across the room, I could hear Leo and Carol arguing good-naturedly about a line of code. I didn't destroy the family. I just stopped being the builder who pays for the dreamer's mistakes. Now, I build for me. I build for Cassiopeia. I build for the family I chose. And I am, finally, safe.